Hi, this is John Rowley. We've got a great show today. In fact, I'm personally excited about this because we're talking to Dan Holtz. He's the owner and founder of Beverly Hills Rejuvenation Center. He's got a different title. He'll let me know in a second. And I've been reaching out to him for the last couple of years for my own personal health. So we're going to talk about some personal stuff that I've never revealed before, and I hope it helps you. And I want to also get a little bit out of Dan about why he got involved with this. Dan, how are you today?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, you and I originally met through Doug Bringoli 2 or 3 years ago, and he said that you were the best.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Doug is an amazing bodybuilder, a great guy, and coming from him, that's a great compliment for sure.
Well, now, when I was reading up on you, I remember you from years ago, seeing you in Muscle and Fitness and things. So you've always been a fit guy, but bodybuilder. But you were also a race car driver, weren't you, at one point?
Exactly. Still am. Got into that about 15 years ago and stayed with it. So I'm racing everything from stock cars to trophy trucks in the desert, all kinds of things. Been great to do the Baja 1000 this year, as a matter of fact.
Are you really?
I really am. Yeah, the first one.
Now, you're about my age, right? You're early 50s?
51 years old.
51, and I'm 52. What did you do early on? What got you into fitness? Were you a high school, college athlete?
You know what? I've just always had a great interest in being fit and active, and for me, I was never really, bodybuilding was interesting to me, but I knew I was never going to be one of the really big guys because I wanted to really be super healthy and super fit, and for me, longevity was what I was mostly interested in. I didn't want to do anything that was going to kind of go away from that. And when I moved out to California, I was early 20s, actually mid-20s. I saw a lot of things going on, a lot of bodybuilding. There was a lot of drug use and a lot of, stuff that just, to me, it just scared me. I was interested in being here a long time and having great health. So I shied away from it. I just kept working out, and was all about fitness for me. So, along about late 30s, I started noticing that my energy was down, my strength was down, my body fat was starting to escalate a little bit, and I just didn't feel great anymore. I had a hard time getting into the gym. I felt fatigue and depression, and when I say depression, I can't say that I was running around wanting to end it all, but that isn't what I'm talking about. But I just felt, I just didn't feel like I had any fire left in my body. I just getting to the gym at the end of the day, I did not look forward to workouts. I dreaded it. I went every day, but boy, it was difficult. I started using caffeine to try to get through the workouts. And I just wondered what happened to me. Why I was kind of falling apart, because I was all about health and fitness, and I made every sacrifice. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I ate perfect every day, I worked out every day, so I thought I deserved to have fantastic health. I realized now, I thought, my friends, I thought, well, I can understand why they are not healthy and fit at 38, but why wasn't I? Why was I starting to lose it? Because I was doing everything right. That's when I started doing hormone testing, to figure out. I went to a physician. I said, look, I don't know what's wrong with me, but do every test you can do on a human being. I want answers. And so they did every test they could do. Cost me a fortune. I paid cash for all the tests, and then I get all these results, and I started noticing across the board all these hormone levels were on the low side. So I asked the physician, I said, what's up with this? I'm a fit guy. I'm a guy that works out every day. My levels should be high. Well, they didn't know. They had no idea. Well, I'm not sure what to tell you. So I thought there was something clearly wrong with me. I thought it was just something, I thought maybe I had some type of a disease. I had no idea. And then I went from doctor to doctor to doctor, and no one really knew what to tell me. And then I went on the Internet, which, by the way, at the time, 13 years ago, had almost no information whatsoever. But there was a study that was done by the Journal of American Medical Association. Well, the Journal of American Medical Association had written this report that a university back east had just done a study, and they took a significant, 40 males and 40 females, I think it was, And they did hormone evaluations on them all, and they were surprised to find that all these 40-year-olds had one thing in common. They were all compared, I mean, they were very, very low in hormones compared to a 20-year-old. They were like half. And they said it was very interesting that every single person in the study group had significant hormonal deficiencies. And that's when I thought, this is what happens to people. I thought, this is absolutely it. This is just natural. And nobody's realizing that this is what goes on to these 40-year-olds. And so medicine is just not on top of it. So I decided that I was going to treat these deficiencies. That's how this whole thing began. And I started getting with, getting products and started to supplement and take my levels back up to a youthful range. And within 3 weeks, I felt like a new human being. So that's how this whole thing started. And that was 13 years ago, and I've been just a passionate individual about this every day of my life since.
So you basically came at this because you were having struggles, and now you're, I know from a lot of people I speak to, you're the go-to guy for Hollywood. So everybody is now going to you.
Yeah, I went nuts with this stuff. Like, I thought, this is the most, in 3 weeks, I felt so amazing, John, that I just thought, I have literally discovered the fountain of youth. This is it. This is why people, go lose their health. This is exactly it. I knew it. And everybody said, man, you're crazy taking that up. You don't know what's going to happen. I said, I actually do know. I know what did happen by not taking the products. And once again, thinking, for me, it was always about health. So I had to, all I ever wanted to do was get back into a youthful, healthy range again and experience that feeling I had back in my 20s. And I've done that. And now, every day of my life since then has been just complete, absolute commitment to finding more and more information and developing. And we've done so many things over the years here, and we're constantly having new breakthroughs in this field, and just loving it, John. I love what I do. I love being a part of it. I love watching people get their lives back, get their health back. I mean, we're treating everything in the world out here from, people get told they have fibromyalgia. I mean, we just turn their lives around. People with diabetes turn their life around. All these things. People with just chronic joint pain everywhere. We fix them all. We got guys that have been told that they have enlarged prostate. That's why they have frequent urination at night. Well, not really. It's adrenal issues. We cure 95% of those cases. So it's just a great experience being involved in a practice that can help so many people. We're expanding nationally now. We've got another center opening in Dallas soon, and we're expecting to have multiple ones in Dallas soon, and then Houston and New York City, and we're kind of starting to expand around the country now. So,
well, that was my next question, because obviously I'm on the East Coast, which is why I haven't come to see you yet, and I hope to in next year. But how do you deal with people that are, like, say, long distance like me? I know we had spoken. They come and visit you, and then you monitor them. They get their blood work done locally.
Yeah. It's what's been going on over the last 13 years. People fly in from all over the world once a year. California state law requires that the prescribing physician has to be the one to do the blood test. So we get people from everywhere that come here, and as long as they get their physicals once a year, their products are sent to them. So that's how we do it. And the blood tests are done in wherever they're at. We give them requisition forms for blood tests to do throughout the year, and we just monitor them and give them adjustments over the phone and that.
So say you've got some, like me. I've got some genetic cholesterol issues. My dad's had a quadruple bypass, things like that. If I come to you on a yearly basis, will you just do blood work once a year? Or if there were other needs beyond that, like, say, cardiovascular issues, would you do stress tests and go beyond that a little bit, or refer it out to somebody?
Well, blood tests are done multiple times a year.
Okay.
As far as cardiac testing, we've got technology here that isn't even anywhere in the whole U.S. And quite frankly, this technology, a company called Vicor Technologies, is the was the founder. It's a company I'm heavily involved with, and we're trying to take this technology. We just got FDA approval, and this technology analyzes an EKG. When you look at an EKG, many different physicians or cardiologists will look at an EKG and come to a conclusion that it's very difficult to look at an EKG. You get 10 cardiologists lined up to evaluate that EKG, and you're going to get 10 different opinions. And our technology is nothing short of amazing. What it does, it analyzes that information, and it actually can be predictive. This center is the only center in the U.S. that has this technology in a 900 and some patients in Spain. We analyzed all the data from 900 and some patients in Spain that had gone into a cardiac center. We analyzed all the data. We were able to tell them in the study, we were able to tell them exactly which individuals would have died, who would have lived, who needed cardiac intervention, and we were 100% on every single study. On that study, it was 100%. So we brought that technology in here. So basically, what happens, I can through the use of this technology, I can predict sudden cardiac death 6 months in advance.
Oh wow!
Can predict plumbing or electrical heart failure in 6 months in advance. It's amazing.
So you having clients coming in that are nowhere near having problems yet, and you're catching it well in advance so you can get them fixed up?
When we put you on that EKG, it's completely predictive. It is amazing technology. So we'll see things come along before anybody else does. An EKG is an event that took place. This PD2I technology it's what's going to take place, and it is absolutely amazing. We're working right now trying to get it into Lehigh Valley Hospital in Pennsylvania. We've just shown the cardiology team there, and they were absolutely astounded by what we had. We're working with the cardiologists over at UCLA, showing them. It's mind-boggling technology. I mean, it's just amazing.
This is very
changed the world.
And I agree with it. This is really exciting because I've obviously got a lot of friends of mine that in different parts of the country that are doing hormone replacement therapy through centers, and the only thing they're getting checked for is their hormone levels. Then I've got other friends, including myself, that are going to doctors, and you're getting that checked, but they're not experts in hormone replacement, so so they're not balancing the hormones properly. I think yours is the only center in the United States that actually watches out for every area of their health, not just the hormone levels. Is that correct?
Well, we're definitely looking at more than just hormones. I mean, hormones are just so important. That's where heart health begins. I mean, when hormone levels decline, you're going to see arterial plaques start to accumulate. Cholesterol levels are definitely going up. You fix these hormone levels, and of course, you start to reverse that problem. That combined with, using the right type of techniques to try to increase vascularity, like, for instance, there's a product we have here called Cardio for Life that it's just amazing. The product is amazing about increasing nitric oxide levels in the body and opening up that vascularity again in people who have had cardiac issues. We're able to take people with severe high blood pressure and knock it down just very, very quickly. There's just so many things that we do besides hormones that we're just working on health and vitality overall,
That's incredible. So you can actually take somebody who's got high blood pressure and by increasing their nitric oxide levels, knock their blood pressure down? Oh,
big time. Yeah,
really?
It's amazing. Well, there was a Nobel Prize won on the whole a certain formulation of L-arginine and various products that they proved. These scientists proved how much as you get older, your nitric oxide level gets lower and lower and lower, and so you increase that level way back up, and you start to increase that blood supply all over to all the tissue. And it's just amazing how much it takes stress off the heart, and just so many reasons why it's such a great thing to do. But it's just one of many, many things that we work with here that we use on people to just get their health in order.
That's incredible. Now, you and I were talking before the show. I'm 52 years old, and seems like every one of my friends are on hormone replacement therapy, and it seems like everybody's getting about the same thing, somewhere between 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams a week of cypionate.
Okay.
I'm personally, I've been the last couple of months on hormone replacement therapy. I'm taking 200 milligrams of cypionate a week, and with a weekly injection. I feel much better. I don't think I'm where I need to be, and you weren't too excited about the way I was doing it.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of different people doing a lot of different techniques, and you know, most techniques are better than none. I mean, I'd sooner see somebody do a program marginally than not do it at all. But there's benefits from having your testosterone level elevated, even if you have a few other issues. Like, for instance, when you elevate your testosterone, you've got a lot of enzyme in your body called aromatase enzyme, and it will elevate that elevate that estradiol level. So, are you on any aromatase inhibitors, John?
Nothing. Just the only thing I'm on is the testosterone therapy.
Okay, that's one of the major mistakes that physicians make, is that they don't control the aromatization process. So let me tell you what happens in a situation like yours. You take a human being and you inject 200 milligrams of testosterone into them at one time. Excuse me. And so their testosterone level, let's say you're a month into therapy and you've had several injections. You know, you probably started off, your testosterone level was probably 200-300 or maybe 400 if you're lucky. Now what's happening is every time when your low testosterone level before you take your shot is probably down to around 700. When you take your shot, it probably spikes to 1450. Now, that's way above the normal reference range for a male. What ends up happening now is all your red cells start to expand. Your hematocrit level goes up, and it starts raising blood pressure. The other thing is you've got this aromatase enzyme in your body. So now that you've been overexposed to testosterone at one time, there's a significant amount of aromatization occurring, and your estradiol level starts to skyrocket. You'll get real red in color. Your blood pressure will go up a lot. You'll get anxiety, irritability, tension, like you just feel really snappy and irritable. You've heard of roid rage. Well, basically, roid rage is more driven by elevated estradiol than anything. And you have a hormone in your body called progesterone. Progesterone is the balancing hormone of estrogen, okay? So men only have a progesterone level of about 1 to 2, which means they can only tolerate an estradiol level of about 20 to 25. So every time you take that great big shot at one time, your estradiol level skyrockets out of control. It causes fluid retention. It causes so many negatives, it's not even funny. So people don't realize that. It's so critical that you control that estradiol level. If I told you to eat all your food on Mondays once a week, would you do it? Well, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? And so the idea you would take all your hormones on a Monday is just as laughable. It simply cannot be done. It'd be like driving your car going around backwards. It just absolutely doesn't make any sense at all. If you ever did blood tests, John, and you saw the chaos that was created in your body by doing injections once a week like that, it's just crazy what happened. So what I did is years ago, I didn't like the concept at all. So I developed, everybody said you couldn't do low-profile injections. I disagreed. I said the reason you can't do low-profile injections is because you're using a whole damn CC every week. Yeah. So I said, I want to go daily. And, of course, you're not going to want to do a deep intramuscular injection daily. So I developed a way of using a different type of method. So I can use a very small insulin needle, half-inch long, and I can penetrate the body a half-inch deep with a little 29 gauge and put in literally 0.1 ml worth of testosterone daily, a little tiny injection daily. By doing so, it was so efficient that my body utilized the testosterone so well. For instance, I take 123 milligrams a week as my entire dose, and it keeps my testosterone level at 950. So I don't even have to I take just barely over. I take about 60% of what normal people take, and I get but way more results out of it. So all that ends up doing is making less stress on your kidneys. It's just a natural way to go, you know?
So basically you use an insulin pen and do it subcutaneously instead of doing it intramuscular once a week. It's
actually intramuscular. It is oil-based product, so it does have to get deep enough into the tissue. But I use a half-inch long because I'm only going with 0.1 ml. I only have to go a half-inch deep. So it makes it for a very comfortable, pain-free injection in the outer thigh every day.
And you use an insulin pen instead of a regular syringe?
I use an insulin needle. It takes about 30 seconds to load it. I also make my testosterone different. I make it different oil so that it's less milligrams per ml. So you can do low-profile injections, and it'll penetrate the muscle tissue real easy, so that it doesn't push back out of the little hole and get caught between the skin and the fascia, causing a spike in estradiol. I've done a lot of testing and a lot of development on this, but it works phenomenal. So it just was a breakthrough years ago. I developed it, and we've got, thousands of people doing it this way, having phenomenal results. It just keeps everything so consistent and balanced. And people don't understand how important that estradiol level is. If your testosterone level is 800 or 1,000, you wouldn't even notice the difference. But if your estradiol is below 20, if it's 15, I'll guarantee you're going to have erectile dysfunction, you're going to have dry skin, you're going to have mental fogginess. There's so many issues you'll develop. There again, if it's over 30, you're going to have back again to erectile dysfunction, you're going to have fluid retention, you're going to have anxiety, irritability. There's so many negatives for having that estradiol out of balance, because that critical balancing hormone, progesterone, is sitting there at 1 or 2. You cannot have a big movement in that estradiol. You're going to have problems.
So doing these frequent injections, the daily injections, eliminates this, or at least lowers it a lot?
Well, think about it. The aromatization process is minimized. You because you're taking such a small amount at one time, there's such a small amount of aromatization. So I only have to use, with our therapy, we only have to use a 1/4 milligram aromatase inhibitor a day to control all that. So it just makes for such a perfectly balanced way of taking in hormones. It just keeps you consistent. You stay in these reference ranges perfectly. So every day you get up, you feel incredible. Your body's functioning amazing, and you're just not having all these ups and downs and spikes and drops. That's what the body doesn't like, all that. Might be, another important hormone, DHT. Guys want to keep their hair? Take a weekly injection like that. Your DHT is going to spike through the roof as well, because that 5-alpha reductase enzyme is going to get elevated. It's going to spike DHT. Every time you take a whole bunch of testosterone, you're going to get a bunch of conversion. My DHT stays right around 45, not above 50, and therefore I have no hair loss. At 51, I've got all my hair, haven't had any hair loss whatsoever. That's just another reason why daily injections controlled, you keep that DHT perfectly in range so that you're not having to deal with head hair loss and all problems like that in large prostate.
This makes a huge amount of sense. I'm changing my routine right away, and then I'll be coming see you hopefully right after the first of the year. Now, when somebody comes and sees you, Dan, besides testosterone therapy, what other therapies and what other procedures do you do with people?
Well, we don't want to forget about those women out there too. I tell you, we absolutely love with all the females. We have phenomenal success with the female population as well. Our business is all about aging. So what we do, we've got our focus is on taking that mid-30s male or female and mid-30s on up, and helping them turn the clock around. Everything from aesthetic treatments. We've got amazing aesthetic treatments. We've got lasers and electronic facelifts. We've got everything you can imagine to make older people look young again. We do treatments, all kinds of aesthetic treatments, as well as, so we get the body balanced on the inside and looking better on the outside, and we get people's metabolisms so they can get rid of that body fat. and just turn their whole lives around.
Now, when I actually just switched to one of your pages, and that was your interview with Jillian Michaels. We heard in the background. I'm looking at the page that you have for women. So you do actually bioidentical hormones with women as well, not just for men.
That's right. That's right. We it's probably about a 50-50 here. So we've got a lot of females that come from all over the country, and we really enjoy the female clients are just phenomenal. We enjoy working with them, and of course that's a big part of our practice. And of course, for the med spa services that we do here, of course the female population is probably 90% of that. If you go on BHRMA.com, Beverly Hills Rejuvenation Medical Associates is the name of our med spa. So it's Beverly Hills Rejuvenation Center and Beverly Hills Rejuvenation Medical Associates are the two companies. And so if you want to find out about our med spa services, just check that BHRMA. It's if you want to find out about the aesthetic treatments, is on there.
I didn't realize you even had a spa. I've always been going to the center one. Now, I'm looking on your site, and there's something there from Suzanne Summers. She's been out there really spearheading this. Has her bringing exposure to this out in the media been helpful to your business, making more people more aware of hormone replacements?
Suzanne has been amazing. She is because she was able to reach so many people with her celebrity, she's just done amazing things for everybody that's in the anti-aging industry. I don't think that we'd be anywhere near where we are without her. She's just been the best thing that ever happened to anything or anyone in this industry. And I'm just eternally grateful to her. And I've been around her a few times, and she's a great lady and just looks amazing. We couldn't ask for a better spokesperson for the industry.
So that's great. Now that we're talking about women, say a woman does come to see you, and they've got their hormones out of balance. Especially women, they start getting into the late 40s, 50s. And if my wife is listening, I'm not talking about you. But when they start getting to that age, my age, hormones for women go out of whack just like men do. How do you approach that?
Oh, beyond the depth. I tell you start getting the mid-30s female, you'll notice that they'll start getting more PMS-type symptoms. They'll start getting more, they'll get close to menstruation. They'll get the breast tenderness. They'll get the distension in the lower abdomen. They'll start getting emotionally sensitive. You notice it. I mean, every guy in the whole, every guy that's listening, every woman that's listening knows about this. The closer it gets to menstruation, the worse things get. And that emotional sensitivity and all that, that's what I talk about the balance between progesterone and estradiol, how critical that is. And women, like a 20-year-old female, 3 weeks into her cycle, her progesterone level will be about 18 to 20. Well, that same woman at 40, it'll be down to 10 commonly. So the ovaries just aren't as good at making progesterone hormone anymore as they go along. As that progesterone deficiency gets more and more pronounced, your body's ability to make cortisol is directly related to progesterone production. So as progesterone production falls, all of a sudden now the adrenal glands aren't making as much cortisol as they used to. Now all of a sudden we can't tolerate stress like we used to. Next thing you know, you start getting frequent urination, achy joints, thyroid disorder, because when the cortisol level starts going low, now all of a sudden the thyroid starts functioning improperly because the cortisol pushes the thyroid hormone into the cells, and so all of a sudden body temperature drops, metabolism slows. People with adrenal issues, they end up, they can't sustain blood sugar. They constantly find themselves with low blood sugar. So they'll eat a meal, like they'll go eat lunch, and then an hour later they feel like they're going to fall asleep. Well, in many cases, that's because insulin is doing way too good a job. And the reason it's doing too good a job is because the cortisol is not there to make you more insulin resistant. I know that sounds crazy. But that's what ends up happening when you get these adrenals get wore out. And next thing you know, you're just hungry all the time. You're hungry and tired all the time, and you get caught in this cycle. You always got to eat. And progesterone deficiency with women really is what leads them right down the road to adrenal fatigue and adrenal deficiencies. So, once again, looking at other values, pregnenolone, DHEA. I'll give you a quick example, talking a little bit further about adrenal insufficiency. Well, next thing you know, you're not making enough cortisol, right? So all of a sudden now your joints ache because that lubricates your joints. So now you got an achy joint with a lot of friction in it, right? Meanwhile, because your adrenals are weak, your adrenals also make your pregnenolone and your DHEA. Well, guess what your DHEA makes in the body?
What?
It makes all the cartilage in your joints.
Oh, that's right.
So now
yeah.
you've got a high friction joint because you're low cortisol. So you've got a joint that's real achy and it's high friction, and you have an inability to make cartilage. Okay, we're taking DHEA cream, putting it on joints, and having complete rehabilitation in cartilage.
Really?
But unbelievable. People don't know DHEA is a major building block of cartilage and joints. So, you get this adrenal fatigue, and you get these adrenals are weak, and then all of a sudden you're not making any cartilage, and you've got a high-friction joint. What do you think happens? Somebody's 50 years old, they're getting a hip replacement already. And they go, well, what the hell happened to them? Well, that's what happened. All these cases where these joints are wearing out, it's 100% related to adrenal issues.
Really?
Absolutely.
Now,
people are stressed. They're stressed out, and you go take a blood test, John. At 8 a.m., your cortisol should be 18 to 20. 8 a.m. fasting cortisol should be 18 to 20. I almost never see anyone like that anymore.
Because everybody's so stressed from life?
Everybody's so stressed, and they're all achy joints. They're getting up to pee 2-3 nights during their sleep, which just ruins their REM sleep more, which just hurts their adrenals more. But they can't hold fluid because their cortisol is low. Now their aldosterone goes low. I got a guy I met in the gym here recently, and he said, he came up to me and said, Dan, I got problems now. I can't hear. And I started talking to him, and I said, I know what's wrong with you. He said, I've been to all these doctors, everybody, and neurologists, and everybody, they can't figure out what's wrong. And I said, I tell you what's wrong. You got adrenal insufficiency. And he said, what? I said, absolutely. He came to the center. He got on my program, and we put him on a full hormone replacement program and 6 milligrams of Medrol every day. Guess what?
He can hear now.
His hearing's back, fixed, 100%. And he was getting balance problems and things like that. Well, it's all due to aldosterone deficiency. So there's just so much that we can do here with the hormones. The hormones are point A of all health. Let me tell you, if you don't have this right, the whole system doesn't work right. IBS, all kinds of problems. I mean, you can't even digest food properly. You can't even make stomach acid properly. You got to have these hormones right. They're the key to longevity and the key to health. And by the way, I'd forgotten our website on the medical side. It's www.bhrmedical.com. I forgot to mention that. And I couldn't recall it. I was trying to think, and I couldn't recall it. But
and then the other one is bhrcenter.com.
That's correct.
Good. Okay.
That's it. But these adrenal issues are huge, guys, out there. Everybody out there that's listening. I mean, just a major part of this whole. I personally supplement my adrenals every day. I've got a super high stress life. I've got a company that's exploding with growth. I've got so many different things I'm involved with. I race cars on the weekends. I live the most stressful life that anybody could ever live, besides maybe the president. But I have to supplement every day. I supplement 6 milligrams of Medrol every day of my life because my adrenals would never tolerate the kind of stress that I go through in a day. And I have good stress in that it's great stuff, booming business, life is good, but it's still stress. And I got 51-year-old adrenal glands, and they just won't keep up. Now, so you got to supplement even the cortisol. You got to supplement.
What is Medrol?
Well, it's a synthetic form of cortisol. And low dose-wise, if you go and look it up, you might get a little bit afraid. But bottom line is this. It's a really, there's hydrocortisone. There's all kinds of ways to supplement cortisol, okay? But as you get older, your adrenal glands are just not going to be capable of handling the amount of it's just, I mean, just like your testicles get old, your ovaries get old, everything, these glands are getting old, and they just don't produce like they used to. And so supplementing all these hormones is critical. People just think about testosterone. Testosterone's scratching the surface. You want to feel incredible, you got to fix it all. You got to fix all these deficiencies. What's great about Medrol is it releases very, very slowly throughout the day, so it's very stable. Hydrocortisone is another way of replacing cortisol in your body, but the problem is it kind of spikes and drops quickly, and you have to treat it many times throughout the day. So Medrol is just a really great way of, low-dose Medrol will just keep you from having, all the spiking and dropping. And, you want your joints to be lubricated. Well, this is how you do it. You want your, you want to be able to tolerate stress well. People get eczema. They wonder where it comes from. This is where it comes from, adrenal issues. Eczema, itchy, cracked skin, dry skin, achy joints. They say people tell them about arthritis. 90% of them got adrenal issues.
Now, you had mentioned earlier on in the interview that you'd rather see somebody do something instead of nothing. But if I'm hearing
you've improved by taking testosterone.
Absolutely.
Obviously. But, so my point is, I'd sooner see you do that than nothing. But the reality is, you're getting a lot of nasty side effects that long-term aren't good by doing it the way you're doing it. You could, just like everything in life, you can do it, or you can do it at a very high level and get amazing results. We could take what you're doing, make some minor adjustments, and have it work probably 50 times better than it is,
Well, but plus also, if you're just doing, say, hormone replacement therapy, just doing testosterone or estrogen or whatever, you're fixing that one area, but you're really not touching all the areas in order to get optimum health, which is what we're all after.
That's exactly right, John. I mean, I love hearing that people go on. I mean, even look at testosterone cream. I mean, one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of testosterone cream, although it's done all the time, is when you take testosterone cream and you go through the skin, all right, transdermal application, you end up, there's a 5-alpha reductase enzyme in the hair follicle. So as you rub that onto the skin, it picks up, the testosterone comes through, picks up that 5-alpha, and there's an extremely high conversion to DHT. Once again, DHT is a great hormone. It's a wonderful hormone. We need it, but we don't want it over 50. You start getting up over 50, you're going to deal with prostate enlargement. Over the long haul, you're going to deal with head hair loss. All that kind of stuff is going on. Every hair on your head's got DHT receptor. It doesn't have a testosterone receptor. It doesn't have a DHEA receptor. It's got a DHT receptor. So the higher you take that DHT, the more hair is going to fall out of that head. And then doctors start giving people Propecia. And then they knock your DHT level all the way down to 20. Well, now you're pretty much guaranteed heart disease and obesity and erectile dysfunction and all kinds of problems because they've driven the DHT too low. So there's just so much to know about this stuff. It's just so important that you get all this stuff right and that you find a healthcare professional who's really passionate about this stuff. There are people out there that I've met that are just crazy passionate about this field, and that's who you need to get with. You need to get with somebody who's obsessed about this and loves it. The reason I'm obsessed, it was all about getting my own health back to optimal first, and then it just so happened that everybody else got the benefit while I was benefiting. I was selfish. I was doing it for me. Believe me, it was all about getting my own health great. But now everybody else gets to benefit from that as well. And just find somebody that is just absolutely obsessed about it, and I'm sure you'll get good help.
Well, I've spoken to several people that have been to your clinic, and they told me that they felt the results within days. And I'm looking at a quote on your site from Oprah Winfrey. After one day on bioidentical estrogen, I felt the veil lift. After 3 days, the sky was blue, and my brain was no longer fuzzy. My memory was sharp. I was literally singing and had a skip in my step. That's a pretty common thing. It doesn't take months.
Oh, yeah. No, your brain doesn't even really make serotonin anymore when these levels get low. So you just can't ever feel great. I mean, you just end up, you're 40, 50 years old, the average person just kind of getting through the day. And some people say, well, I feel pretty good. Yeah, guess what? You might feel pretty good, but you don't feel anything like you did when you were 20. And you don't even realize how far away from that you are until you fix it. When you fix it, I would argue this. I would say, I tell you what, I would ride a bicycle today if I had to, wherever I went, rather than go without my hormones. If I had to make a choice between a car or a bicycle, and it was hormones or not, I'd take the bicycle all day long.
Yeah.
That's how important it is to me. There's nothing. I would not live on this planet without these hormones. I wouldn't want to be here. It's the difference it made in my life.
Now, one of the things that you and I spoke about early on, it was probably a couple of years ago, was I don't sleep well. And you talk about being 20. When I was 20, I could fall asleep. I was an athlete. I could fall asleep anywhere. And now it's like every night I go to bed, it's stressful because I know I'm not going to I'm going to be up 3 or 4 times a night. I have a hard time getting to sleep. And if I wake up within 30 minutes of going to sleep, I have a really difficult time getting back to sleep. Is that common for guys when they get into their 50s?
Here's what you got, John. I'll tell you what you got. You got adrenal fatigue. There's no question your adrenals are suffering. That frequent urination while you sleep, that's all aldosterone related, and that's because your adrenals are weak. So there's no question that's going on. You got some achy joints on top of that too, don't you?
My joints are aching as I'm sitting here.
There you go. There you go. Guarantee you, it's easy to fix. There's nothing to it. I can make your joints feel like unbelievable again. No doubt in my mind. The other problem that you're having is every time you take that shot, you spike yourself up to 1,1500, you're so stimulated. So now the other problem you have is you lay in bed at night, you can't stop thinking. The reason you can't stop thinking is because your estradiol level is literally probably double or maybe triple what it should be. And so what that does, it stimulates the brain. The brain won't stop. It won't shut off. If you talk to any woman who's ever getting close to menstruation and she's got PMS, she'll tell you she cannot stop thinking. And that's exactly what happens. So what happens to you, you're taking this big shot of testosterone, okay, at one time, you're getting a huge spike in estradiol, so you can't sleep well because you're too stimulated, and now it's keeping you from getting into a good REM sleep, and now your adrenals are wiped out. And so now you'll ache all over your body, your joints will ache, and of course you got fluid retention problems, you'll have blood pressure problems, of course.
I kind of feel like you just read my mail.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to get with you and change your life. To me, it'd be just every person that comes through here, the most exciting thing to me, I love meeting them. I like talking to them. I like knowing that my life's not going to change much now, but I live through changing other people, and I love watching people walk in the door and look them in the eye and know that we're going to get to be a part of changing their whole life. And I've made so many incredible friends in this world by being a part of this business. So it's exciting to me. I can't wait to have you come out to a center and see if we can just in weeks, literally weeks, you should have a whole change in your life.
I can't wait. I am looking forward to it. Now, one of the things that we spoke about a while back was you also pay attention to the melatonin levels of your clients.
Sure. Well, and melatonin, is so important because, of course, when really, if you think about the way we're supposed to live, John, when light comes through the window in the morning and it touches your skin, it spikes your cortisol. Okay, so that wakes us up, right? But when the end of the day comes and darkness starts to come along, your pineal gland sees this darkness, okay, through your eye. It sees the darkness and it starts driving melatonin hormone up. Well, when melatonin hormone starts to elevate, it pushes cortisol down. So for people that have melatonin deficiencies and they have an inability to produce enough melatonin, they don't drive their cortisol down, so their cortisol stays elevated. And when your cortisol stays elevated, your blood sugar stays elevated. So now if you ever try and go to sleep with high cortisol, you'll notice you just can't go to sleep because you're stimulated. Well, you're stimulated because your glucose level is high. So you got high blood sugar, and you're just stimulated. You're just ready to go. You might be feeling tired and feeling kind of like you want to go to sleep, but you just can't shut it off because you're too stimulated with glucose. So you got to get that cortisol pushed down. Melatonin is nature's way of pushing that cortisol down. And so without that melatonin level being high enough, of course, this is the trouble you run into. Now, melatonin is very difficult to test because it's a very unstable hormone. But it's simple, with melatonin. It's just, if you take melatonin and you wake up groggy the next morning and you can't come out of this foggy place, you oversupplied it. And some people say, well, I took melatonin and it didn't do anything for me. And I would tell that person, then you needed more. If you take melatonin and you don't have any effect, it simply means you needed more. I've got some people need 7 milligrams a night. I got some people that can't take over a milligram. I have some people can't take any, depending on their situation. Now, oversupply will mean nightmares and grogginess the next day. The right amount, you typically will dream well and wake up feeling rested.
And you help the client find the right amount and monitor it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, now, there's big talk out there. We've only got about 10 minutes left. There's big talk out there these days about andropause. I think most people know what menopause is, but andropause is in men. Could you explain that? Because I think for the guys listening, I think you've done a great job really opening things up. And I think if they understood what andropause was, that would just kind of close the gap a little bit.
Well, andropause is simply male menopause. It is when, if you think about the female, there's simply not a female in the entire world that doesn't go through menopause. It happens. And all that is when the ovaries finally reach a point where they simply cannot produce enough of the sex hormones to keep the body functioning at a level that's sustainable. And what you'll see is hot flashing and all these kinds of symptoms. Hair will start falling out on the head, and because they're not getting enough blood supply to the hair follicle. Andropause is simply the same thing going on in the testicles. Now, the difference is we don't typically see any major, we don't get hot flashes per se, but ours happens from the age of 25 on. You start into a decline. And basically what happens is this: your body's not making as many cells as cells are dying. Okay, so when the growth hormone level drops by age 25, you're just starting to get into a cellular deficiency situation. So you're no longer making more cells that are dying. So we're losing more cells that are being made every day. After this goes on for 10, 15 years, the testicles have way, way less functioning cells. And so your testosterone level gets lower and lower and lower as time goes on. And dihydrotestosterone also gets lower, DHEA gets lower. All these levels start to decline. Just all the glands that make hormones, and just year after year after year, these levels get lower and lower and lower. And so for us, it's a much more gradual thing, and we don't just wake up one day and bang, everything's different. But you just notice that, you start noticing central obesity, which means you're starting to store fat around the center of your body. It's very common to see with testosterone deficiency. You ever notice that these 40-year-old males start losing their hair, and they go get this Propecia. Doctor says, well, here, this is for hair loss. It's not from high androgens. What it's actually from, John, is it's from not getting enough blood supply to the scalp. Okay, So testosterone deficiency and hormone deficiency across the board can actually be the reason why you're losing your hair at 40. If you're losing your hair at 20 and you got a big bald spot appearing in the back, there's probably a real good chance that you've got an oversupply of dihydrotestosterone, DHT. But when you're losing your hair at 40, it's not from high androgenic hormones. We know that. So andropause, it's the central obesity, it's the fatigue, it's the depression, it's the erectile dysfunction. All of this stuff is completely treatable. It all goes away. Your body is just regenerated and restored. Bone mass. I did a bone scan at 38. A big weightlifter my whole life. I had lost 20% of my bone mass already.
Really?
My testosterone
even with
level
lifting
at
weights?
38. My testosterone level at 38 years old was down to 234. 1,000, 900, 1,000 is optimal. I've seen natural guys in their 20s at 1,250 before.
Really?
So, I was severe. I had real major hormonal deficiency. And the biggest reason I think why, I just pushed myself so hard all the time. I kept trying to train like a 20-year-old when I was 40. So I thought, well, hell, I'm not going to, every year that I got a little bit less muscle mass, I got more concerned and I'd push harder. Well, every time I pushed harder, I just kept taking, more impact on my adrenals. Meanwhile, I did not have enough androgenic hormone to build any muscle anymore. I just kept losing more. So the more I lost, the more I pushed, the less I could produce. I was caught in this just situation where I couldn't get out of. No matter what I did, I couldn't make more muscle. I kept getting smaller, weaker, and my body fat kept going up. I mean, my muscle mass kept diminishing year after year.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just so fixing these levels just immediately was a transformation.
I want to talk about three more things, and then we'll be done.
Yeah.
And the one is I want to step back into the joint issues for a minute. A friend of mine, really good friend of mine, he's late 50s, played for the NFL for several years, and he's got some really bad knee and a shoulder issue. And it almost sounds like it's bone on bone at this point. And he's looking at replacements in the next couple of years. Is there something that you can do when it's already that advanced, or is it just too late at that point?
Absolutely. No, there's no question in my mind. I got to tell you, we have a years ago where I learned about the value of DHEA. I had another physician that I knew. I learned about this through my compounding pharmacist, actually. He had another doctor who was a big guy on doing transdermal DHEA and transdermal pregnenolone. And here's how we learned about the body's ability to make cartilage out of DHEA. So this old guy came into this position, and he was given transdermal creams, to use on for instance, for the DHEA. And the old guy said, well, where do I put this? And the doctor said, well, just on your skin, anywhere, just rub it in on your skin. He said, well, can I put it on my knees? And he said, I guess that's the problem. This guy had achy knees. He always had just horrible achy knees. And he started rubbing his DHEA into his knees, and he started going, he called up the doctor after a month, and he said, Doc, does this stuff help with knee pain? And the doctor said, no, I don't, not that I know of. I don't know why it would. And he said, okay, well, I just wondered. He said, I've been putting it on my knees, and he said, it just seems like my knees don't ache as much.
That's incredible.
What do you think happened 6 months later? 6 months later, he goes in for an MRI because he's like, can't believe his knees don't hurt anymore. And he does an MRI, and he had rehabilitated a lot of the cartilage in his knees already.
Wow, I didn't know you could do that.
DHEA is so important for cartilage development. So that's how I even found out about it. So now, in my opinion, there's no question that cartilage can be regenerated, but it's just most people don't know about it.
Well, I'm going to send you a private email introducing you to my buddy, and this will get. Now, the second thing I wanted to ask you was, last couple of years, a lot in the media about growth hormone. What's your take on growth hormone?
Well, it's growth hormone is the only hormone in the body that makes new cells. So if people are against it, they simply don't understand it. The idea that growth hormone is bad is insane, in my opinion. You can't, when you're 20 years old, you're full of growth hormone, and there's people getting cancer when they're 20.
No,
hardly ever. It happens, but it's rare. But talk about 50-year-olds getting cancer. Well, that happens all the time. If you go to Europe and you talk about growth hormone over there, they're for it big time. There's European studies that reflect that growth hormone is one of the most anti-cancer hormones in the body. There's studies that exist that reflect that people that have supplemented growth hormone over the last 15 to 20 years have got the lowest cancer rates of anybody out there. So if you look at HIV-positive people, let's talk about this for a moment. When they become HIV positive, what would happen is generally within 24 months or so, they would end up with an immune failure, right?
Absolutely.
And often the disease that would kill them would be leukemia, which is a cancer, a bone cancer. So ultimately, here's the problem. If these guys were already dying of cancers, okay, Well, now if you look at the product that they're taking to keep these people from dying from being HIV positive, they're taking 18 units of growth hormone a day. Okay? Now, if it accelerated cancer, wouldn't that group be the first to go? They were already
You're
getting
right.
cancer.
I never thought of that. That is great.
18 units a day. I take 2. So the point is, there's absolutely no question in my mind it spikes immune function, and it makes new cells. Now, then the argument, well, if it makes new cells, couldn't it make a new bad cell? Guess what? You already got cancer. We all got cancer. We all have those cells in our body right now. They're there. The immune system is what keeps them from running rampant in your body. All you need is a really weak immune system, and your cancer will spread through you like wildfire. The bottom line is keep your immune system strong, and you'll keep cancer at bay. That's my belief.
So the hormone replacement therapy, along with the GH, well, that's hormones as well, keeping your hormones level, even though you may have some cancerous cells in your body, which you said we all do, by keeping your immune system strong, you're not going to get sick. Well, the odds are less that you'll get sick.
You know, nobody can prove anything, but I just look at what's happening. There's no question that what is happening is people that are taking 18 units of growth hormone every single day are living longer, healthier lives as a result of taking that product, and they were dying very quickly without it. That's a fact.
Unreal.
That's not a theory. It's a fact. And so no one can argue that that's not taking place. You could come up with many hypothetical, comments and say, well, it might make a new bad cell. Yeah, you can say that, but what's really happening is more important than what one might hypothesize.
Okay, now my last question. We've only got 2 minutes left. This is more of a personal question. You're my age. How do you train these days? We both trained hard and heavy when we were young. How many days a week do you train, and how are you training these days?
I train 7 days a week. I just never take a day off. I don't have any reason to. I recover really well because of the fact I've got the hormone levels of a 20-year-old. I wouldn't recommend that for people who do not have hormone replacement therapy and they're in their 40s and 50s. But I'm able to train daily. I only train one body part per day. I train that body part with great intensity. High volume of, it's definitely a good hour and a half on each body part. Like, for instance, I'll do chest on day 1, back day 2, legs day 3, arms day 4, and shoulders day 5. And, of course, I'll throw calves in a couple of those days. Usually 3 of those days I'll throw calves in. But I'll blast those body parts and for an hour and a half with great intensity. I believe in, I've been doing this for a long time. I stay around 230, about 10% body fat, 8% body fat, right around in there. I keep decent size on and but that's been my regimen for quite some time. And I love it, and I just train each body part to a significant degree. But, it just depends on where you're at in your program. I've been doing this for a long, long time, so, it's a little bit different than a guy who's just getting started. That definitely be a little bit hard on somebody that's in their early years.
Now, do you do cardiovascular as well?
You know what? The way I train, I keep my heart rate up at such a level that I train pretty intensely, pretty fast, so I keep a pretty good heart rate up. I stay so, I typically don't need much cardio. I really don't. My metabolism's high, and I just, from a cardiovascular standpoint, I'm super healthy, so I don't focus on a bunch of time in the gym doing cardio because I'm already pretty lean and pretty hard and don't really see a major need for it.
And if you're moving quickly through your workout, you're doing cardiovascular anyway while you're doing your strength training.
Exactly right. On my leg day, my heart rate's just through the roof the whole day anyway. So, when I'm in there a couple hours cranking out doing legs, my heart's just beating out of my chest. So that is kind of a cardio day every time I do legs for sure.
So you just do a 5-day split. You keep rolling 7 days a week. If you find yourself traveling a day or two, you may miss a day, but then you just pick it up where you left off, right?
You got it. That's exactly right. I will miss one every couple of weeks, and that's due to travel or something, but that's exactly how I work it.
Well, Dan, we've got about 20 seconds left. I want to thank you. For everybody listening, Dan's website is bhrcenter.com or BHR. Is it medical, Dan?
It's bhrmedical.com is the other one.
Medical.com. I want to have you back on again because I feel like we only scratched the surface, but I want to thank you, Dan. Thank you so much for being on, man.
You bet, John. Enjoyed it a great deal, and we'll look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thanks, Dan. I really appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Dan Holtz. He's a great guy. As you can see, he knows this business. He knows his business inside and out. It's one of my resources. I've been friends with him for a few years now, and he's been a great help to me. And I want to encourage you, go to bhrcenter.com.